From the heart of the city too busy to hate, a progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Well, hello, and thank you for joining us. Weekdays, 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn. I got an email early this morning, and this was like a bad bill alert, so I sprung out of bed, as I always do. I'm sorry. I'm not an early morning person. I kind of slide out of the bed like a sloth, but here I am, and we're with Executive Director Marilyn Marks from the Coalition for Good Governance. This bad bill alert, that's what I'm calling it, came via email this morning from the Coalition, and they are concerned about HB 960. You say it's Senator Greg Dolezal's election bill, but it's an HB and not an SB. So who wrote it in the House for it to even come to fruition in the first place?
Oh, my goodness, Ron, that is such a story. So our wonderful, hopefully about to be elected to Congress, Jasmine Clark, who is in the House, had a very simple bill, and it was to add one more judge in Gwinnett County, which she represents. And she just had this simple bill. Hey, we need another judge in Gwinnett County. Passed the House, no problem. Goes over to the Senate. Greg Dolezal hijacks the darn thing and completely rips out the entire thing about needing a judge and instead replaces it with a substitute in a completely different title, not even in the judiciary title, but an election title, drops it in there and said, okay, this is past the House. This is now my bill. I'm taking it to this, and he fills it full of trash. Absolutely ridiculous. You can't even call it policy. Ridiculous provisions, and has stolen the content of that bill. And I think there have been other arrangements made. If not, that would have taken the effect of stealing that additional judge from Gwinnett County.
All right, so first let's address the Gwinnett situation. Is there any other legislation that's going to address that, or is Gwinnett County now just going to be without a necessary judge for the next 12 calendar months?
No, as I understand it, and I certainly can't guarantee anything, but as I understand it, that legislation has now been dropped into another bill, and we were hearing night before last from the Senate committee that it'll get through. It'll get through.
I really hate that Representative Clark concocts a bill and then has it hijacked. Like she has no control over it anymore. That somebody needs to, under the Gold Dome, draft legislation that kills that from ever happening again. I don't think that should ever be allowed.
What? I actually think there is a rule that keeps that from happening. However, it doesn't completely keep it from happening, but there is a rule that I think is pretty clear that, you can't take a completely unrelated subject.
Yeah.
And just because you've got a viable shell of a bill that's passed the other house, that's about dogs, and you can't bring it over to the other
Senate,
chamber and make it about fruit baskets.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say cats. I'm all about cats. I mean, we can totally take a dog
because that
bill and
would
make it about
kind of be
cats.
under the same animal, thing. But
no, you're right, 1,000%. Okay, so why is what Greg Dolezal has taken this bill? It's a zombie. It's essentially a zombie bill. What has Greg done to make this bill such a terrible zombie bill?
It is. I don't even know where to start. It's an incomprehensible, unworkable bill. It was like he took the right-wing hand count zealots and just whatever idea that they came up with at the moment, I think at a bar, and said, okay, let's throw that in there. It is nonsensical policy about how we would count the votes. And primarily about how we would count the votes, and thrown it into a bill, I think, to try to get right-wing hand count zealot votes. It didn't matter how bad the policy is, and the idea is, okay, we're gonna own the libs, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So, for example, for the major races like governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, U.S. Senate, it will require counting the ballots 4 times.
Period.
Ron.
Like not even
three of those would be manual counts.
Okay, so that happens no matter how close the results are, and that happens what, at the state level or the county level or what?
No, at the county level. So, it is a manual count in these cases.
Three times manual.
One by machine, one by machine, and 3 by hand.
Oh, that's impossible. These poor county employees. I'm sorry, this is horrible.
It can't be done. I mean, it would take days and days and days of counting and recounting and recounting.
Wait, I thought they were the ones that wanted the results the same night.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't,
so they will get those from the machine. They will get those results from the machine.
All right.
And then they're going to say, well, rather than just testing to make sure that the machine gave us the right outcome, which you can easily do with an audit, rather than just saying, all right, we want to be sure that the machine wasn't hacked or anything. Yeah. All right, let's do valid samples. We can decide, we can tell from from those samples if we got the right winner. All right. That's all you need to know, right?
Okay, yeah.
Except no, they want to now count them 3 times by hand.
But doesn't that also just continue to sow the kind of doubt that you would think that the zealots want to get rid of? They want to eliminate doubt, right? And so by accepting the same night machine count, and then days later you may have a hand recount come up. I mean, to me that just sows doubt, especially if it's a close election.
And you're going to have 3 hand counts. And so, and they're not going to reconcile. And they're not going to, the counties are. You will be paying for, are you in DeKalb or Fulton?
I'm in Fulton, and I've already got to pay for Trump and his team's legal tab. So, I mean, we can't afford anything more.
Okay, well, so you get to pay for this too. So you remember the hand count that was it was sloppily done and done really fast. The hand count in 2020, right? It cost Fulton close to $600,000 additional out-of-pocket cash.
Oh.
Okay, that was $600,000, and that wasn't nearly as difficult as these hand counts, because these hand counts require more people in a way more precision.
And also for every election on the ballot, right? Not just one.
Well, it'll be many. It'll be the governor, U.S. Senate, all the top ones.
All the major, yeah.
And you have to count by precinct and by method of voting, meaning that they didn't have to do that, and they didn't have to sort all the ballots out by precinct. Mm-hmm. For a recount, you actually do need to separate all the ballots by precinct and method of voting, and therefore they will just spend days and weeks and delay the election results, the certification. It is impossible. But we were talking about the cost and what you get to pay.
Yeah,
I would believe that it'll be well over $2 million or maybe more to do something like this. And that's for one election. You not only do it for your November election, but and it won't be in effect for May's election, but you do it for the primary as well.
Yeah.
So imagine that kind of money being spent.
Well, and that's the thing.
For no good reason.
I was looking at your notes here. We have to imagine the kind of money because there's been no fiscal note given to this. There's been no crunching of the numbers to sort of hash out how much this would cost.
Exactly.
Let alone an allocation from the state to cover it.
Exactly. And no reason why. Now, the Democrats have a play that I don't understand why they won't make this play. Right. And we've tried year after year after year. Ron, there is a law, not just a rule, not a suggestion, not a ruling by the chair, a law that says if they're going to be significant, and that's defined at the end of it, but if they're going to be significant costs to the counties, you can't even take a vote in a committee until you've disclosed what that is. Right? That would make total sense, right? The state shouldn't be out there passing laws when you have no idea what the taxpayers are going to have to pay for it.
Undue burden, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is this law that says that they shall not take a vote. Well, it's clear they don't have a fiscal note. We ask them over and over, both sides of the aisle, don't vote on the thing. Get up and walk out. They won't do it. They won't do it.
Well, but, also here we're talking about the Senate, and in charge of the Senate is Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. So why would he even allow this to come to a vote?
Ron, that is a really good question because you may recall on crossover day he lost that vote. Greg Dolezal was up with this very same bill. It was called 568 at that time.
Yeah,
I say very same. It's not, that one was not as bad as this one. All right, but it's very, very similar.
Oh wait, I just figured out the answer to my own question.
What was that?
Well,
What was that?
yeah, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who's up for election in the Georgia GOP primary, now cannot take that tack that you mentioned, adhering to a law already on the books. He can't adhere to that law now because it'll look like he is weak on election reform in the throes of a GOP primary that is suddenly competitive for him.
Instead, he's going to look weak on fiscal responsibility.
Yeah. Oh God, it's a no-win scenario. It's the Kobayashi Maru. Yeah.
And this bill may not pass. His 568 didn't pass, and everybody knew that he didn't have the votes yet. At the podium or whatever it's called, Lieutenant Governor Jones looked very frustrated when he didn't have the votes, and it went down because three of his senators were not there to vote. We all knew that it was going to fail, and he let it fail. And it's very surprising because it doesn't look good that you've got the guy running for governor can't get a simple bill passed on how we're going to vote.
Listen, I enjoy as much as anybody picking on Burt Jones and his ineffectiveness. Remind me what 568 was.
It was Dolezal's exact same bill. What happened here is that this very thing. I mean, it's gotten worse over the last 3 weeks, but he took 568 that failed.
Oh, and essentially just copy and pasted it onto this.
And made it worse. He now have add the fourth time we have to count the votes.
Okay, so 568 actually called for 3 recounts and not 4, and
3 counts.
But you're saying that just the one extra recount? Well, okay, that does technically make it worse, but only like marginally worse. I mean, it was a bad bill to begin with.
So we made it worse.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe we could pass it now.
Makes total sense. Another layer of lead-based paint on to make this house shine.
Exactly right. But why Lieutenant Governor Jones wants his brand on this, I don't know, because it will make all the county commissioners mad to have to fund all this excess cost. It'll make candidates mad who can't get their finalization of their election. Candidates want to know, I've got my certificate, I can relax now, my election's not going to be overturned.
Yeah.
They won't get that for very long periods of time. It is going to be a complete nightmare. Everybody's going to be mad at them. Why in the world Burt Jones wants this brand on him, I don't know.
All right.
And going back, why won't anybody stand up and say we can't vote on this? Yeah. We don't have any kind of fiscal note.
Well, like I said, to me, that falls on the guy that runs the chamber where the vote would take place in the first place. And again, that comes back to Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. But I do want to talk.
I want to disagree with you on that.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, you know what? Let's do that. We're going to take a quick break and come back with Marilyn Marks, Executive Director of the Coalition for Good Governance, with a bad bill alert on The Ron Show. It's Georgia Now, Progressive Voice via TuneIn. Back with Executive Director Marilyn Marks from the Coalition for Good Governance, who wants to disagree with me. I assert that if we don't want a bad bill to pass in the state Senate, then that by the way is illegal. Then Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones should wield his authority with the gavel and just not bring it up for a vote. I mean, that's completely within his right. Correct? So
I completely agree with that. Yes, of course he should. But I also say it's not 100% his responsibility. We also have all of the senators, Democrats and Republicans, who can speak up and make the damn point. Wait a minute. We have no idea how much this bill is going to cost. The law says I'm not supposed to vote on this. So you know what? I would be a no vote if I were going to vote. but I'm not going to vote. And I urge all of my colleagues across the aisle not to vote. Don't ask me to do something illegal. Don't ask me to take an illegal vote.
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote.
Oh my gosh.
That would at least get the press attention, right?
Have you reached out to Senator Josh McLaren? Because he's running for lieutenant governor as well as Greg Dolezal, and this would be the perfect opportunity for him to, make that claim and make that statement.
Funny, and you should ask,
lead that
because last night about midnight, I thought I should write Josh. And that was the first thing to do on my list this morning, but you called me instead.
Oh my God.
So we need to get first.
We need to get you to multitask it and be you're drafting that list.
Yeah, good luck.
But seriously,
old dogs, new tricks. You know that.
Well, I mean, Senator McLaren is really good at. First of all, he's really good at floor speeches, but he also, again, he's running for lieutenant governor, and you know what? He'd have a friend in helping to do that, except former Senator Nabila Parks stepped down from the Georgia General Assembly to run for the same spot, and so there aren't the numbers that we would have. But do Democrats are there enough senators you think that would stand up and walk out, that it would kill the quorum?
It's going to take some leadership, because we find that so many of them don't, they don't think about that tool that they have, because nobody ever uses it. It ought to be used a lot more, right? It's much wasteful stuff as they do up there. It ought to be used more. But Senator Elena Parent tried this back in 2019, when the bill went through to get the stupid voting system that everybody now wishes they didn't have. She did this saying, wait a minute, we have no idea how much this is going to cost the counties. We should not vote on this. The law says we shouldn't vote on it. Well, Jeff Duncan, who's now on the other side, of course. Jeff Duncan, who was the lieutenant governor, stopped proceedings, went and had a little conference with a parliamentarian, and came back and overruled. The ruling of the chair was, no, there's no cost. It's not needed. There's not going to be any cost to the counties. And no. Well, he was completely in the wrong procedurally and then factually too. As you know, Fulton County's cost of elections tripled after that. So, hopeful, and I have reached out, hoping to be able to get to Senator Parent, and maybe she could work with McLaurin, because she's been there. She knows this law.
Yeah, I'm going to text them here when we go to break. I'm going to text them both and say, I need you to listen to this segment real quick, and if you don't mind, handle it this way, if you don't mind. I can be like Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham texting the White House on January 6th. Can you get your guy to do something here, if you don't mind?
Senator Parent definitely knows this law.
I'm going to miss her.
And
yeah.
Oh, me too. I was so disappointed. Yeah. Do you know what it is she's going to do? I do not.
I don't either, but I don't blame her either. Anybody who serves in elected office at that sort of level, for sure. But I mean, like even like a county school board person. I mean, people go through hell. So I kind of get it, and it's a shame, because I want to say it was like maybe 2 years ago. I put her on my little short list. Like, I'd like to see her run for governor. I wrote that down, and I thought she would have been a fantastic candidate. Still think and maybe she will one day. I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely going to miss her. Her mind is very sharp.
And
on this sort of stuff.
I had hoped she would run for Secretary of State. We so badly need a strong, articulate Secretary of State.
Okay.
Who's got great principles.
Okay, so you're not happy with the field that we have for Secretary of State, I'm taking it. Okay, we're going to leave that alone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll talk about that whenever.
Yeah, we can leave that alone. Let's maybe we'll get past the primary on that. So good stuff. All right. So is there anything else about this bill that is of concern?
Yes. This is supposed to be a new voting system bill.
Yeah.
But Senator Dolezal will not say whether or not we need a new voting system or not. But we have to have it in by July 1st, 2026.
Wait,
this is not like
July?
going to buy a new car. And there's no budget. He says, well, we have $15 million in the budget. wait a minute, 15 million is only going to buy a few pieces of it.
Yeah.
He's saying we have to have a new voting system. Well, Ron, buying a new voting system and doing it properly is 18 months to 2 year process.
Okay. Now hold the phone, because I've got to take a break in about 30 seconds here. But I'm going to ask you: Is this kind of your fault? Honestly, you guys have been pushing for a new.
We're responsible for so many bad things.
No, but well, you'll understand my point when we come back. So there's a little codicil in this $15 million budget item here in this House bill that Greg Dolezal is pushing for a new, quote, voting system. I'm using air quotes here. My fingers are in the air. And I'm thinking maybe this has something to do with something you guys have been pushing for earlier in the session. We're with Marilyn Marks, Executive Director.
Responsible for nothing that man does.
With the Coalition for Good Governance when the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now Progressive Voice of You. Tune in.
This is the Ron Show.
Heard weekdays, 8 a.m., 4 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. Marilyn Marks is the Executive Director of the Coalition for Good Governance. They have been doggedly working on making sure that the necessary election reforms are taking place and the unnecessary get thrown into the dustbin of nonsense. And since 2020, that's been a steady job for you. I mean, that's you've had plenty of work, is what I'm trying to say. Oh my God,
we've been at it fighting these machines since 2018, for when they were first introduced, and we won that year, and we lost in 2019 when all of the Republicans wanted these machines and all of the Democrats said no, for good reason. We should not have these machines; they're not secure. 2020, and we got them. 2020 happens, and both sides flipped. Both sides went to the other side. The Republicans said Trump lost; these machines must be bad. The Democrats said Biden won; the machines must be good.
Well, this is where I'm going to come back and say maybe this is a little bit your fault. HB 960, it's a bad bill alert. Senator Greg Dolezal took a House bill, an innocuous House bill that Jasmine Clark drafted just to get another judge in Gwinnett County, and he turned it into a zombie. It's a shell of its former self. But what he did was he took another Senate bill. Was it Senate Bill 568 that wanted
Senate Bill 568.
All these nasty election reforms that were going to call for 3 vote recounts and yada yada yada. And he took that House bill and just crammed all the stuffing of that bill into the House bill instead. So you spoke before we had to take a break, and I'm sorry about that hard break there. You spoke about the fact that there's like $15 million in the budget for this bill to come up with a whole new voting system. And by was it July 1st or July 31st?
July 1st.
It's nuts. 31st or 1st, it's not going to happen. And you said it's a 14 to 18 month process. But I say to you, Marilyn Marks, Executive Director of the Coalition for Good Governance, maybe this is some kind of way your fault, because you guys at the start of this session were all about getting rid of or going to hand marked paper ballots. And the current system, you've told me this now on this show a few times, the current system could count hand-marked paper ballots with the equipment that they already have. So is this a backdoor way for Senator Dolezal to get you what you wanted?
No.
Okay.
But that's exactly what he should be doing. That's what should be happening. And that could easily happen tomorrow morning, certainly by July 1st, and that is use the system we've got. It absolutely does hand-marked paper ballots. All we need to do is take those touch screens, which are the problem, put them in the closet. Keep one touch screen per polling place for those where accessibility is needed. But otherwise, substitute all of those touch screens with Sharpie pens, paper ballots, and you would save scores of millions or tens of millions of dollars a year.
How many Sharpie markers would $15 million get us? I got to think that's enough, right?
I think they would be gold-plated Sharpie markers.
Well, no, that's Donald's. That's Donald's Sharpie marker. We don't dare touch those. He needs those for signing executive orders.
That's right. But yes, we can have Sharpie markers, and
so you don't think
this could be done right now?
You don't think that's what he's trying to do with this?
No, because he's saying we have to have a new system. And he's got this weird provision in there that the way it is worded, the system would have to be a new system for the accessibility units, would have to the way it talks about how those votes would be counted, that would require a whole new system and one particular vendor.
Like a specific vendor? Wait, what's wrong with Dominion? It's owned by a right winger now. What's wrong with Dominion?
I guess there's no new system, and not in terms of the money that would be able to be spent. And that system, by the way, would cost probably $150 million.
Oh, okay. And
it's lots of fun to spend money.
Who's going to pay for that?
You.
Wait, are we talking about the county level or the state level again?
No, that will whoever pays taxes to the state. It would be $150 million we do not need to spend.
Are we sure that Are we sure that Greg Dolezal isn't just putting this bill up as like something of a Trojan show pony? Is what I call it. I know, sorry for the bastard, but I feel like it's a little bit of a Trojan horse, but also a show pony. Like, I don't think he wants this bill to pass because it just makes him look like he's working hard on behalf of Georgians to clean up our election mess. I can just hear the TV ad running now in the background, and I just feel like it's one of those ways that. It'll show that he's trying. It'll also put other people on the record voting against it, and that'll work for him in the general if he's, say, up against Josh McLaren, who will obviously vote against this. Don't you think that that's kind of what this is? I think it's just a...
Some people believe that. However, why would Lieutenant Governor Jones let that happen? Because what's going on is, remember that there is a July 1st so-called deadline where the QR codes need to be off the ballot. And nobody has figured out a solution on that yet.
How are we going to do that too?
You would go to what we keep suggesting is go to your backup system, rip the touch screens out. And when you mark your ballot with a Sharpie, you don't do it with a QR code. So, it's the backup system that's already in the law. For some reason, nobody wants to do it. It's too easy, too simple, doesn't cost any money, already in the law. But if the thing to me that's going to look really bad for Jones is not being able to have a simple solution. We've got the end of the session coming up next week, and they do not yet have a solution for how they're going to run the November election. And there's another ridiculous bill that's over in the House right now. That's Senator Max Burns' bill. And you would think that Jones would want because the House is in control of that bill. You would think that Jones would want a Senate bill that he could, when those bills collide, he could at least have some control over. But right now, he's letting Greg Dolezal have a ridiculous bill, and it may be just for the reasons you talked about, a bill to say, oh, we really tried hard.
Yeah, that's what I feel like it is.
Couldn't do it. But at the end of the day, though, I think it makes Jones look bad.
Well, are they friendly? Do you think that's what? I don't think that's.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, no, they're very friendly.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It seems that, from what I can tell, and Lord knows I don't know anything about Republican politics, but it seems that Dolezal is the LG pick for Burt Jones.
Okay, but there's a very real possibility that Burt Jones won't be governor, or even the nominee. Speaking of making Jones look bad, I mean, we've seen plenty of that since November.
Right.
Oh my gosh, this is what a tangled web.
And I hear that, by the way, that Rick Jackson has been reaching out to the election integrity folks in the grassroots, the right wing, trying to learn about Burt Jones's policies. It will not surprise me if this bill fails, if Rick Jackson really starts giving him a hard time about not being able to pass a simple bill on how we put votes on paper.
Okay, so there's that, but also Rick Jackson has been funding Burt Jones up until last fall. So why would he be putting money behind a candidate that he doesn't know enough about his policies to continue? I don't know. I mean, I guess when you're a billionaire, you just got all kinds of money to burn. You can just throw money at stuff and not even worry about it. I mean, he's I
wouldn't know.
Yeah, me either. I mean, he sent mailers out about Keisha Lance Bottoms. She's not yet the nominee. He's not either. He sent out, it's just, it's maddening. All right, so here's what we did. Marilyn and I were talking, and I'm telling you, this is the sway I've got. I'm sitting here, preening a little bit. I actually did text Senator Josh McLaren and Senator Elena Parent and told them, I'm like, you guys should walk out if this bill comes up for a vote. Just walk out. get enough senators to walk out. You can use the law that doesn't allow you. I did. In fact, I even said, Senator Parent, you did this in 2019 apparently, and do it again. So I sent that, but they're probably in session and may not even have their phones on them. Hopefully somebody's handling that and can get that message to them, so we can do what we can do.
And it won't come up for a vote today. It'll come up tomorrow.
Well,
probably.
Good.
So you've got a little time. We've got a little time to reach them.
At some point in time, they're going to have heard this segment or at least seen my text message and hopefully do the right thing, because this is bad legislation. And I think back to the folks that work at the county and the precinct levels. I mean, we're not talking about well-paid, well-heeled. Some people are connected. Don't get me wrong, at the county level or higher. But we're talking about, this is thankless work, and we're dealing with some folks who are just pulled in to do this job only, part-time for a little extra scratch, and putting this burden on them to have to do hand recounts 3 times, knowing that there's going to be, like, how many times have you ever had to count like 1,000 pieces of paper, right? And you didn't get the count right the first time or the second time, and it's frustrating. And then you go back and do it the third time, and then it makes you doubt the other 2 times.
Well, there are definitely going to be discrepancies. And one of the other reasons that this is going to cost more than the hand count in 2020 is that in 2020, Raffensperger's processes, you didn't need to account for discrepancies. You just took whatever number comes up. This is a much more formal process that's been in place for a long, long time in the laws. They have to account for all discrepancies. So can you imagine people, and most of our workers that do this work are in their 70s and 80s.
Bless them.
Trying to spend weeks accounting for every discrepancy they're going to get with millions of ballots and millions of votes to count.
Y'all gonna piss off Nana and Papa. We're not going to get Werthers in our Easter baskets as a result.
Exactly.
I want my Cadbury egg. Don't piss off Nana and Grandpa.
They will still be counting votes.
Yeah,
they won't have time to go to Easter.
Oh my God. No, this is terrible.
It's terrible. And, it's an embarrassment for the state. There's no other state that has even brought such legislation. There's no state that, of course, has anything close to these types of ballot counting rules. But no state has ever even considered anything like this in legislation.
I have another suggestion. Is this potentially Greg Dolezal's way of trying to win President Donald Trump's endorsement for lieutenant governor, maybe?
Possibly.
Well,
let's think about, speaking of Trump, let's think about some other possibility. I'm beginning to wonder in the last 24 hours, when you think about the chaos that this creates, there is a lot of thought about Trump wanting to create disruption and chaos in the 2026 election in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If they can pass something like this, this is nothing but chaos and disruption. It has no good policy.
I didn't even think about
And remember that Trump is now saying again, I should have seized those machines.
Mm-hmm.
And his people are saying, we might need to seize the machines. We might need to take over. So the current system, even if nothing changes, the current system is tempting him to take over, right? He's against QR codes. He's against the touch screens. He's got all of this evidence that it wasn't counted right in 2020, although we still think that Biden won.
Well, I mean, let's use that air quotes there, evidence.
Right.
I mean,
there is evidence that it was miscounted.
Sure,
we think we still got the right outcome, though.
Yeah. Well, and let's also do this quick review. I think it's been about 55, maybe 60 days since the FBI seized Fulton County's ballots, and we want these counties to get the vote right and certified in a certain number of days. They've had 2 months to look at the 2020 ballots, and we've heard nothing.
My understanding is that those boxes are still sealed. I really hope it's true.
Sure. Yeah. And my hair is still brown and coming in flowingly smooth all over my head.
The only reason I think it might be true is because they have no people left. Everybody has quit. So there may be no one to open the boxes.
There may not be, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is an entire mess. But no, I think that there could be a reasonable theory that, look, we don't want a valid election. We want disruption. And I think you and I have already talked about my concern that the Ossoff race will go to the Senate, right? And
Yeah.
that it will be decided in the Senate because of Trump's whoever the Republican ends up being. They will have the chance to challenge the Ossoff election, and it will not be decided by the courts. It will be decided in the Senate. So you give enough disruption and that sort of thing as an excuse,
Oh my
and
God.
they have colorable argument for saying, no, Mike Collins didn't win. That was, I mean, did win. Did win. It wasn't Ossoff they won. Did we have that talk once about,
No,
maybe not.
I didn't know that that's what would happen if there were questionable results in a Senate race. It goes to the U.S. Senate or the state Senate?
Yeah, no. It goes to the U.S. Senate. It's part of our Constitution.
Now, wait, does that fall on the current sitting Senate or the newly elected sworn-in Senate?
The newly elected Senate.
So it could come down to the control of the Senate could come down to a questioned outcome that very Senate body gets to then decide on?
Yes, and it's happened many times in our history. We should have a separate segment on this, Ron,
I didn't know
because
this.
it has happened many times in our history that there would be a challenged Senate election, and they do a trial on the floor of the Senate, and it takes months and months and months to gather all the evidence. So in the meantime, that elected senator, let's call it Ossoff in this case, is sitting there without being able to vote. He has no seat during all the time that this is being processed about, okay, we're getting ready for trial. And then they don't have to use real evidence. They can use however they feel in terms of, oh yeah, those machines were really bad. I really believe that Mike Collins got elected. So I actually have been worried about this. We've been clamoring about this. We've been talking to every campaign possible, and I say campaign and everyone who is a decision maker, saying you really should not want this result, no matter which side of the aisle you're on. You really should not want this to have to go to the Senate to determine. And while it would initially go to the state courts, Ron, it would, initially, let's say Ossoff's declared the winner. And let's just say Mike Collins is his challenger. Mike Collins would challenge at all three state court levels. And whatever the Supreme Court decides, they decide, but it doesn't have any bearing on what the Senate has to do.
Oh.
Senate gets to start all over again.
Wow. Okay, that is something to consider. Yeah. Let me take a quick break. We'll come back real quick and wrap up this conversation. That is something to ponder. We're with Executive Director Marilyn Marks, Coalition for Good Government, and we're talking about a bad bill that the folks in the Senate need to quash. When the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now, Progressive Voice via TuneIn. All right, apologies. I had to catch my breath because this scenario that we could conceivably see play out here in Georgia's Senate race, John Ossoff, the Democratic nominee without any opposition on the primary ballot, could see himself embroiled in a close enough election that, say, Mike Collins, a Buddy Carter, whomever is the nominee on the GOP side, could gum up the process, take it through Georgia's court systems, and then it wind up in the U.S. Senate for a vote on the Senate as to who wins the election in the state of Georgia, which to me is like just kind of, it's cacophony. But I think it sounds like this is, and again, it's all conspiracy theorizing. We don't know that this is what the GOP is looking to do, but it sure looks like this bill that Senator Greg Dolezal is trying to pass seems like it would have Trump's blessing, but only creates chaos instead of coming up with ironclad results. Is there enough time, we're with Marilyn Marks, Executive Director, Coalition for Good Government, is there time enough in the General Assembly for somebody to take some legislation and get us what we need, which is what we have, but in a different form? I know you guys, and again, I blamed you, I air quotes, blamed you for pushing for the use of hand-marked paper ballots, but with the current system we have, why can we not just do that? That just seems like the easiest solution to take care of Dolezal's quips and claims and concerns. It takes care of the election denier types, but it also secures the election with the system that we have in a budget-friendly manner.
Exactly, and we don't understand why that's not everyone's solution.
Do I need to text Josh and Elena again? I'll do it if I need to. I'll take the phone and we'll text them again.
Well, you know what? We have a bill. We wrote it in October. We've refreshed it about 5 times that just says, hey, take what you got temporarily. You don't have to make the decision for all time. For this year, let's take the system we have. Let's use it the way it was designed, not the way we're using it. Designed to be used with hand-marked paper ballots. Everybody already knows how to use it. Everybody knows how to use a Sharpie. And it doesn't take any reprogramming or anything like that. It is what's on the books as the backup system for times when a contingency plan is needed. We're at a time the contingency plan is needed. It's safe. It takes Trump's weapon away from him. It gives us a irrefutable vote. So if somebody wants to steal it, you got to steal it in public, man, because the vote would be irrefutable. Now, yes, if there were a senator who would take another shell of just like Dolezal has done, but one that's a legitimate bill, add this language to it that does nothing but say it's not even really necessary, but state election board can't be trusted to act properly to enforce the law. But all it says is, hey, use the law we have on the books. Use the law that says we need a contingency. We need to go to the contingency plan. We've got it in place. We don't need to really spend much money. In fact, all they need to do is buy a few ballot-on-demand printers in the large counties. We would save tens of millions of dollars, and we already know how to use it, and we don't need a new system. Think about what you want to do long-term next year.
But also, you have, in the current Secretary of State's office, you have the Secretary of State who is also, by the way, I don't know if anybody remembers this, he too is running for governor, and you have his Lieutenant Gabriel Sterling who is running for Secretary of State. This could be an issue that they could champion and, create some...
They won't, because they are married to those current machines.
But they're running for another office, so forget what you got married to and go win an election by taking some headlines on something that you desperately need the attention for.
Yeah, it would be smart, but I can't see them doing that. And I had thought it would be smart for Burt Jones to say, look, I can solve the problem that Ravensburger can't.
Burt Jones.
But he's not doing it.
Yeah, but bless his heart. Burt Jones can't seem to get out of his own way, and kind of got baited by Rick Jackson to do that. Oh, that video is just every time I watch it, those few seconds that I see him on TV speaking nicely of Rick Jackson, I almost feel sorry for him. But it's Burt Jones, so I'm not going to. Anyway, I want to thank you for laying out what all makes this HB 960 such a bad bill. And again, we've already texted Senator McLaren, Senator Elena Parent as well, to utilize that tactic that she used back in 2019 to stop this bill from happening. And you say it comes on. Can we ask your listeners to do one thing? Yeah.
Not only call their senators, call their county commissioners, because the senators listen to the county commissioners. Make sure the county commissioners know they're getting ready to get hit with if this should go through, a huge budget cost, as well as personnel. You're never going to get enough people to do this. And if the senators,
you're going to lose people. Actually, if I were like a part timer, and you're like, wait a minute, I got a hand recount. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to be busy tonight. I feel a flu coming on.
Exactly.
We're going to have TSA agents like calling out, because of that.
Exactly.
You think we got long lines at the airport?
Yes. And so again, call the senator, but also call your county commissioners. Say, make sure you call the senator and tell them, we can't afford this. We'll never get this thing staffed. You'll be waiting around forever for your election results. And I think that could have an impact.
All right, good deal. All right, we're going to put all the information about this bad bill on the show notes at ronshowatl.com. Marilyn Marks, Executive Director, Coalition for Good Governance. Thank you so much for joining the Ron Show today. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, all the show notes at ronshowatl.com. This show airs weekdays, 8 a.m., 4 p.m. on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or every podcast. So I will see you tomorrow. Or you will hear me tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I meant.